Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome back. Hope you all had a nice Pesach. We're now in the end of Nisan, Taf Shin Pei Vav, and we are continuing HaMaspik, LeOvdei HaShem of Rabbi Avram ben Harambam. Before we get into what we are going to be learning this evening, let's just quickly recap. But just before that, Shiurim this week will resume as usual, and Mondays throughout the summer will be B'ezrat Hashem 6 to 7. Tuesdays will be 8 to 9, Moreh Nevuchim starting, and Thursdays 6 to 7, Hilchot Shabbat continuing. We'll be doing Hilchot Borer next. On Thursdays 6 to 7. This week there'll be Shiur tonight, and on Thursday there won't be Shiur tomorrow. So we're going to begin the Moreh next week, Tuesday. So this week's just Monday and Thursday, and then next week we'll begin Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, B'ezrat Hashem. Okay, so a quick recap of what we have seen so far. We are up to chapter 6 of HaMaspik LeOvdei HaShem, the book of the son of the Rambam, Rabbi Avraham, the son of the Rambam. In chapter 1, he told us there are two paths of serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's the regular path, which a person is called a tzaddik, and there's a special path of the Hasid. And within the path of the Hasid, there are many nuances according to how dedicated a person is. But there's no point trying to be a Hasid when you haven't done the basics of being a tzaddik, keeping the basics. Chapter 2, he told us that all character traits are interrelated. When one works on one, it will automatically influence others, and vice versa. If one doesn't, if one neglects one, it will automatically influence others negatively as well. Chapter 3, we learned the importance of purity, tahara, purity of action, and we said essentially there are 4 levels of serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The lowest is doing things out of social pressure. The second level is doing things for HaShem and also for others. The third level is serving HaShem out of fear or out of reward. And the fourth level is simply serving HaShem because He has commanded us and because it's the best way to live our lives. And that is the level which we strive for. In Perek Daled, in chapter 4, Avraham told us about the midah of compassion, which he calls Chemla, Chanina. Okay, and he said compassion is important, and so the first Rahamim, it's the first attribute of the 13 attributes of mercy. But nonetheless, sometimes a person needs to know when not to be compassionate, sometimes even cruel. But when one has a doubt, it's better to veer towards compassion rather than cruelty. Then chapter 5 was generosity, nedivut. And the definition of generosity is when a person gives when there's no duty to do so. And he contrasts nedivut with kamtsanut, miserliness, vis-a-vis bizbuz and hisachon, which means either spending or saving on oneself. So he was focused on vis-a-vis other people. There is nedivut or kamtsanut. One should work on this character trait, but to the appropriate people. It doesn't mean to be generous to everyone. Even HaKadosh Baruch Hu wasn't generous to everyone. And generosity, we said, can be with 4 things, primarily money, intellect, faith, and influence. And we saw from Avraham Avinu all the 4 examples of how he used his generosity in all of these 4 aspects, whether it was with his wealth, or with his intellect, or with his faith, or with his general influence. And when a person works on these 4 things, it shows he has bitachon, he has trust in Hashem, that he won't lose out by helping others these things. That was chapter 5. Now we're in the middle of chapter 6, which B'ezrat Hashem we shall finish this evening. And we got halfway through just before Pesach. Chapter 6 is what he calls arichut apayim, which we translated as being calm, being slow to anger. And he clarified right from the onset to be Avraham, this doesn't mean apathy. Being apathetic and not having feelings is not good. Right? It means having feelings, but being in control of one's feelings, being in control of one's emotions. It's okay to show displeasure in a calm, regulated fashion. The problem is when a person shows their displeasure in a way in which they are not in control. He also talked about harboring anger, even if one doesn't actually express, but one harbors it, that's also not good. And in fact, there's a prohibition in the Torah also against that. And of course, there are many different levels, as he told us. Some people get angry at big things and not at small things. That's the general, but most people do. But to acquire this trait properly, one needs to not get angry even at small things. And he told us the way that one trains for being calm is through two things. Right? Just before that, he told us also that anger and arrogance are interrelated, and calmness and humility are also interrelated. Generally speaking, anger comes from a place of ego, comes from a place of arrogance, and calmness comes from a place of humility. Okay. So he says there are two main ways, and this is where we got up to. There are two main ways in which a person can train towards working upon being calm and not getting angry. First way he said, and this is where we're up to, is going through the stories in the Torah in which we see how anger was either used negatively or used positively. So he gave us the example of Moshe with the water, right? Okay, so we had many examples we saw next time. What we're going to see this evening now are examples where people were calm. This is all part of path one of training towards being calm, and then path two, which is meditating on the mitzvot of the Torah, which are geared towards a person staying calm. So that's going to be part two. So there's two things a person can train for this midah. Either is thinking about the stories in the Torah, in the Tanakh, or the mitzvot of the Torah. So now we're still up to the aspect of the stories in the Torah, and we saw last time the negative stories, the stories in which people lost out by not being calm and being prone to anger quickly. Now, Rabbi Avraham is going to take us through some examples and some stories from Tanakh in which we see that people were slow to anger and were slow to being and were calm, and the positive effects of this. So this is where we're up to the middle of Perek Vav, the middle of chapter 6. Okay, so let's get straight into it. Now we need to think about the stories of people being calm in the Tanakh. Firstly, בשעה ששיכך ראובן את חמת השבטים לבא יהרגו את יוסף באומרו עליהם השליכו אותו לבור הזה שבמדבר. עברו כשוך חמתם בכעסם ממחשבת הריגה למכירה ככתוב. Firstly, when the brothers wanted to kill Yosef, when the brothers wanted to kill Yosef, immediately upon their arrival at the camp, when the brothers wanted to kill Yosef, so Reuven intervened, and Reuven stopped them from getting angry, and told them throw him into the pit, let them calm down a bit, and that worked. At least Reuven had an even bigger plan to bring him home, but at the very least he wasn't killed, he was only sold. ואריכות אפיו של יוסף שסלח לאחיו וחמל עליהם וסיפק צורכיהם בהריהם מן המפורסמות וכבר נאמר בה שנאמר. Right, one of the most famous ones in the Torah. In fact, this is the first place in the Torah where someone forgives, is with Yosef. That's at the end of towards the end of the Bereshit, when Yaakov had died and the brothers were afraid, and they made up a whole story that your father told us to forgive us. Yosef said, "Don't worry, I forgive you. It was all from HaKadosh Baruch Hu." That's a very strong and clear example of someone who could act upon their anger and their displeasure, but Yosef clearly had worked on it because he recognized the Yichud Hashem. He recognized that everything comes from God, and he was willing to oversee what the brothers had done to him. Another example. Now we move to the Nevi'im. אריכות אפיו של שאול בחיר השם שסלח לאלה שביזוהו, למרות חפץ העם להורגם. אומר הכתוב, ויאמר העם אל שמואל, מי האומר שאול ימלוך עלינו? תראו אנשים וניתם. ויאמר שאול לא ימות האיש ביום הזה, כי היום עשה אדוני תשרה בישראל. This is the story at the beginning of Shmuel, in which the people of Yavesh Gil'ad wanted to surrender to Nahash, the king of Ammon. And Hashem made a miracle, they were saved, they didn't need to surrender. But some of the people said, the fact that we're willing to do so, we need to execute justice. The fact that we're willing to surrender to our enemies. And Shaul said, no, we're not going to do that. No one's going to be killed. It's fine. Even though they went against what I said, it's fine. ואריכות אפיו של דוד בסולחו בתאפקו מלהרוג את שאול, אף כי ביקש שאול את נפשו בגלוי העלתה גם היא על הכתוב. The pasuk tells us clearly that although Shaul wanted on a number of times to kill David had the opportunity and he didn't do so. He just made him a hint that I could have killed you and I didn't kill you. ותשובת שאול והודתו לא הייתה, צדיק אתה ממני כי אתה גמלתני הטובה. You are righteous. You could have killed me, you didn't do so, you just cut my coat instead. וכי ימצא את אויבו ושילחו בדרך טובה, ואדוני ישלמך טובה תחת היום הזה שעשת לי. Right? Shaul recognized the fact that David could have killed him, didn't do so. וכן אריכות אפיו בהתאפקו מלהרוג את שמעי בן גרה, ואומרו הניחו לו ויקלל, וסליחתו לו כשרת דיכתו ירדנה, שבועתו לו עם עמיתך בחרב. שמעי ben Gera, famously, Kiralani Kila Nimretzet, he really denigrated David HaMelech, who was the king, and David said, leave him, we're not going to punish him now. Right? At the end of his life, just before he died, he commanded to his son that he has to execute justice, and he has to kill him. אכן את מצוותו לשלמה להורגו צריך לפרש שהיה חייב לעשות כאן על פי דין התורה. היות וביזוי זה נתבזה בפרהסיה, כמו שכתבו בעלי המסורת, שאם תלמיד חכם נתבזה בפרהסיה, אסור לו למחול, קל וחומר מלך משיח ונביא. It's the fact that David HaMelech commanded Shlomo to kill Shimei ben Gera for the terrible denigration of David HaMelech was because he was obligated to do so. Because the halakha is that although Talmid, according to some opinions, Talmid Hacham can be, it's a mahloket in the Gemara whether Talmid Hacham can forgive for his lack of kavod. But certainly a melech, a king, and a nasi, and a president, and a prime minister are not able to do so. A leader are not able to do so. They're not able to forgive. It's just the Torah doesn't allow you because you have a role and you need to stand up for that role. And since Shimi ben Gera had cursed David HaMelech in public, he had a din that he had to be executed. For whatever reason, David felt that now wasn't the appropriate time, wasn't going to be done from the right place. And therefore he said, I'm not going to do it, I'm going to leave it to my son Shlomo to do it. But you see again that he was, even though in the end he died, Shimi ben Gera, for what he did to David HaMelech was willing to wait and to be calm and to say, not now, let's calm down, Shlomo, my son, will do it after my death. V'rayala davar, the proof of this, ve'ata al tenakeu. Right? David told Shlomo he can't go free. וזה הפירוש היותר נכון לפי מוטב הבנתנו, כיוון שהוא מתאר את עצמו לאמור אם גמרתי שולמי רע וכיוצא בזה. David in Tehillim writes very clearly that I didn't exact retribution against my enemies, even though he did command Shlomo to kill Shimi ben Gera for his denigration of Melech David. That was, we have to say, that's because that was the din, that was the halakha. He didn't have a choice. David HaMelech didn't have a choice to let Shimi ben Gera go unaccounted for his actions. So you see stories from Yosef to Shaul to David. V'arichut apayim hi mitchunot hanevuah. A person who's calm, that's on the way to reaching a high level of prophecy. Melevad ma shenogea alav yitaleh k'fi sheneveh la'alan. Aside from the fact that this is one of the attributes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. ולכן הזהירו חכמינו בכל לשון של הזרה על מידה זו וציוו להתרחק מן הכעס עד כמה שאפשר. Therefore, חכמים many times talked about the importance of staying away from anger, ואמרו, לעולם יהיה אדם ענוותן כהלל ועל יקפדן כשמאי. קראנו זאת בחלק הראשון במידות הצריכות לרב כשתים בתלמודי תורה. Something he says, we've talked about before, although we don't have it, says the Gemara says is that a person should always be humble like Hillel and shouldn't get angry like Shammai. So you see, Hachamim said importance of staying away. ואמרו בתיאוריהם של מקדשי שם השם, עלובין ואינן עולבין, שומעים חרפתם בין המשיבים. The Gemara says that those who love Hashem are those who are be able to hear their disgrace, able to hear themselves being disgraced, and yet do not respond. Right? We talked about this once before. Non-meshivin means they're not, and non-orvin means they don't even feel it inside. You're on such a high level it doesn't even affect you because you recognize everything from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But you see from this Gemara again that this is really a person who sanctifies Hashem's name, who Hashem says, "V'ahavav ketzit Hashemesh b'gvurato." Hashem loves such people. Is the people who are able to hear them being insulted and keep quiet. ועוד אמרו, לעולם יהיה אדם רך כקנה ואל היא קשה כארז. לפיכך זכה קנה ליטול ממנו קולמוס לכתוב בספר תורה. Another Gemara says, a person should always be soft like a reed and not be hard like a cedar. That's why we use, when we write a Sefer Torah, we use a kulmus, we use a kind of quill, and that quill is made from a kaneh, made from reeds, because it's soft and it's humble. It's an idea. The Hachamim are playing on this idea that we use a kulmus, we use a quill from kaneh, from reeds. The idea because it's soft, it's not firm and stubborn. It doesn't get angry. A person who is willing to forego when he is insulted, he is forgiven for his sins. Shneimar noseh avon over al pesha. Hashem forgives sin. Lemi hu noseh avon. Who does he forgive sin? Lemi shover al pesha shel zulato. A person is willing to overlook the wrongdoings of others. When a person is willing to overdo the wrongdoings of others, Hashem is willing to overlook the wrongdoings of humans. There are many more statements of the Hachamim. So that's the end of part one. So what we've seen here are examples in Tanakh. What we saw last time before Pesach was examples where anger had a negative effect. And we see now are various examples in Tanakh where people were calm, didn't get angry, and sometimes the positive effects of that, whether that's Yosef, whether it's David, whether it's Reuven, whether it's Shaul. And the Hachamim as well, in many places, talked about how important it is for a person not to get angry and to stay calm at all times, even when it's hard to do so. Okay, so that's the first part. Examples from Tanakh, which show us the importance of not getting angry. Second part now is he goes through, it's very interesting, goes through various mitzvot in the Torah, which Rabbi Avraham argues are designated and are given to us to be able to work on being calm. Let's see some of these mitzvot. ואשר לסוג התקשרות השני והוא התבוננות במצוות שתכליתן מניעת הכעס ופחת רישומיו. And the second category, the second path of working on being calm by meditating on the mitzvot of the Torah, which are designed to work on a person's disposition. הרי היא כגון זה שציווה השם יתעלה בערי מקלט ושימת הלב המוקדשת לעניין והתאמתו בחזרה עליו. In a few places in the Torah talks about ערי מקלט, cities of refuge, at least in 3 places in the Torah. Okay, in Parashat Matot a couple of times, later on in Parashat Veit Hanan, and later on in Parashat Shoftim, actually 4 times. Torah talks about Arei Miklat, cities of refuge. So what's the purpose of the city of refuge? Amrat Torah beferush, בסיבת הדבר הזה שתכליתו להשקיט את התפרצות הכעס כמו שאמר פן ירדוף גואל אדם מאחרי רוצח כי יחם לבבו. The idea of a city of refuge is that let everyone calm down a bit. Go there. He can't touch you there. At home, he may, the relative of the person who's been killed accidentally, inadvertently, can take retribution if you're at home. He may get so angry, even though it was inadvertent, but nonetheless, a person may be so upset, they may be so angry, they won't be able to control themselves. And the Torah says, go to Arei Miklat, go to city of refuge, let everyone calm down a bit. Right. When everyone's calm, then you can come out at Mota Kohen Gadol. When later on in life, when the Kohen Gadol dies, you can come out. But that's how he understands. And the Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim, they bring here as well. The Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim says as well the same idea, that the purpose of Arei Miklat is to allow everyone to calm down a bit, and a designated place where people can be and know they're safe, a safe place. You're there, and so you see, the Torah here is giving us a mitzvah to be able to work upon staying calm. מצוות תוכחה נאמר בה, הוכיח תוכיח תלמידיך ותישא עליו חטא. Rebuke your fellow and don't bear a sin. כלומר, תגרש מה שבליבך עליו, על ידי התוכחה, כמו שבאנו בחלק השישי של ספר מילים מיוחדות, שזהו פשוטש דקרא אם שכוונת הפסוק כוללת גם מה שברור במסורה. So let me explain this. The pasuk says, So the Gemara explains this to be, when you rebuke a friend, don't bear a sin. Which means, from this, the Gemara learns out that when you want to tell someone off, don't do it in a public fashion, don't do it in a public setting, because by doing so, you're going to embarrass them in public. So yes, you have a mitzvah to tell someone off when they've done something wrong and you have influence over them, then you have an obligation, you have a mitzvah. But whilst you do so, don't do so in a way in which you are going to bear a sin by doing it in a public way. You need to tell someone off, take them aside privately. That's how the way you do it. Great. That's the simple understanding of the pasuk. That's how the way the Gemara understands it. But another way to understand the pasuk, which is also how other Rishonim understand it on the pasuk there, is that rebuke your friend, tell him off when he's done something wrong to you. V'lo tisa alav het, and don't bear the sin, don't bear the wrongdoing within you. Many times people harbor displeasure, harbor upset within themselves. So number one, the pasuk is saying, don't harbor that. How am I gonna get? How am I gonna be able to get over that feeling of upset and anger within myself? Speak it out. When someone's done something wrong to you, speak it out. Right? That's the second understanding of the pasuk. And the Rambam in Chodeot says the same thing. It says when a person does something wrong to someone, don't keep quiet. Right? אלא מצווה עליו להודיעו ולומר לו, למה עשית לי כך וכך? למה התחלת לדבר? You should tell him, why did you do this? שנאמר, הוכח תוכיח את עמיתך. Tell them. Don't keep it within you. Right? So this is the idea which we're seeing that Abraham is understanding like his father, the same idea that there is a mitzvah to tell someone when don't harbor upset within a person, speak it out. A person needs to actually tell if they have their relationship to tell someone, what you did wasn't correct. Next time, do it differently, and so on and so forth. But when a person is able to do that, he gets rid of the negativity and upset within themselves. It's a second mitzvah. ואיסורו יתעלש על נקימה ונטירה בא להעביר טינה ולמחות את רישומו של הכעס מהכוח המתעורר שבנפש. Another example is the prohibition against revenge in the Torah. Why does the Torah prohibit a person from revenge? Because when you take revenge, you are exercising your emotional anger. And so the Torah is telling us, don't take revenge, work on your calmness, and like this, you won't come to revenge. והאיסורים של קללת דיין ונשיא וחרש, כל אלה באו למנוע תכונת הכעס מלבד ההזק והאבל הנגרמים למקולל. Right? Also the Torah says, don't curse a judge, don't curse a deaf person, don't curse a leader. Right? All of these things are, again, aside from the fact, of course, it's a terrible thing to curse someone, but also they help and they're designed to help a person work upon not getting angry and losing control of their emotions. הוא כבר הסביר הבא מרי בספר המצוות את מאמרו יתעלה, לא תקלל חרש בטעם שיובן ממנו שנזכרנו לעיל. Right? The Rambam explains in Sefer HaMitzvot the same idea that not to curse people stems from the idea that Torah wants us to be in control of our emotions and not to, when a person curses, he's lost control of their emotions. Right? So that's another mitzvah in the Torah. וכן האיסור על קללת אב ואם והכאתם והכאת כל אדם מישראל, כמו שנאמר, לא יוסיף על מספר המלכות. כל אלה באו למחות את רישומו של הכעס הגורם לאדם שייתפס למעשה עוול גדול וחוצפה יתרה. Torah, we learn out from Parashat Ki Tetzeh, we learn out that it's forbidden to hit someone when they're not meant to, whether that's another person, whether that's a parent, or the more so, that's even worse. There's even greater punishment a person who hits their parents in a certain way. But we know from the Torah that it's forbidden to hit any other person. And again, Rabbi Avraham is understanding the reason for this mitzvah, the prohibition against hitting someone, is again, you're losing control of your emotions. You're getting angry, not being calm. So again, all of these mitzvot are designed to be able to prevent a person from getting angry. ועוד מצוות יש שייכות על כעס. בין אם גורם מול האדם לעבור עליהן ובין אם שומרותיהן אותו מפניו. There are many other mitzvot which are designed to stop a person from anger and being calm. ודיינים נאמר שסיבת העוון שמקלל להשם הוא הכעס. ועברנו בזה מה שבאנו בחלקים הקודמים. Also a person who blasphemes, who curses Hashem, that also stems from lack of control of emotions. וידוע לך מה שהתאים התורה בעניין הליכות אפיים סלחנות באמרו יתעלה. This is important pasuk. כי תראה חמור צונאך רובץ תחת מסעו וחדלת מעזוב לו עזוב תעזוב עמו. If you see the donkey of your enemy crouching and needs help unloading, you mustn't ignore them. Azov ta'azov imo. Now, what do these three words mean? Azov ta'azov imo.
We cannot hear.
Hello, am I heard now? Sorry. Okay, so the pasuk says that if you see the donkey of your enemy crouching, azov ta'azov imo. What does this mean, azov ta'azov imo? So the simple understanding is this verb can also mean to help. You must help him. But תרגום אונקלוס ביארת תנקם פירוש זה משבק תשבוק מה דליבי לבך ותפרק עמך. The Onkelos understands this to be Azov ta'azov means to leave. Leave what? You're telling me the opposite. You're telling me to look at, to help him. Leave the anger within you. Leave the negativity within you. Leave the what's in your heart and help him. And from this, the Gemara learns actually that if you have two opportunities to help people, you have two people to help, and you only have the opportunity to help one of them for whatever reason, one of them is a close friend, or one of them is someone you don't get on with, you should try to use the opportunity. If you can do both, do both. But if you can only do one, you should prefer and give precedence to the person who you don't get on with to try to get rid of those feelings of animosity. So from this we see, from all of this mitzvot in the Torah, this is the second part. So we got two ways to see we have two ways to see for a person to work upon their calmness. Firstly, is meditating on the stories in Tanakh, the good ones and the not so good ones. And secondly, is thinking about the various mitzvot in the Torah, which are all designed, whether it's the cities of refuge or the mitzvot against harboring hatred, or the mitzvot about telling someone when you don't feel good, or helping an enemy, or not cursing people, and so on and so forth. All of these mitzvot are designed to help a person work upon control of their emotions and being in control of themselves. And so it's hard. There's no question about it, right? It's when the heat of the moment, when you can, like we said, it's like drunkenness. It's like serving idols, right? In the heat of the moment. But but this is when a person is calm. Try to meditate and to think about these points. How do
Uh,
you, how,
with, with the first mitzvah, the Ira Miklat, presumably you can chase the guy until you get to the town. And therefore, you could argue that it actually builds up his anger because he's only got a short time to get to him before he can get in.
so it's your fault for not having gone. You should have gone faster. That's why. What do you mean? You mean if he catches him before?
Yeah, he's allowed to chase him, right? I mean, you leave straight away and you're going towards it, but it's, I don't know, 5 miles away. This guy's chasing you because he knows the minute you get there, he can't do anything to you.
Okay, so let me make clear firstly, fine, I hear what you're saying. Firstly, let me make clear that it's forbidden to kill him. Okay, it's forbidden to kill the person. Having said that, the the person who committed the inadvertent killing needs to take some kind of responsibility. And so he needs to go to the safe space where he knows there he can't be uh, he can't be he, look, even outside. You okay? I hear what you're saying. If a person, you're asking if a person got there, wasn't able to get there because not because he was just hanging around, he just wasn't fast enough. He wasn't fast enough. So I mean, maybe this is encouraging him to go quickly. Okay, you have to, I don't know what to say. You have to go quickly. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, you have to go quickly. Yeah, now.
Normally, you go with two, like Talmid
You
Chacham,
go, you go with
calm
your Rav, you with your Rav, yeah.
the other guy down. But who knows?
The Rav needs to go with, correct. Okay, you have to find, yeah. I suppose maybe you could do that after. You get there first and then you can go and call the Rav to come.
Okay.
Um, uh,
Yes, there is. Sorry, Diane. There is a point about going quickly because doesn't the Talmud say that there were signposts to
there were
go to the
signposts.
Arabic club, whereas there were not other places to encourage us to be friendly with each other on the Shalosh Regalim, whereas here. So that was, he's right, that you really had to do it very quickly, had to go very quickly.
Yeah, you did have to go quickly. But Mark's asking in a case where he was an old man, walked very, it's harder for him to get there. And what happens? You encounter, I hear, okay. Look, it's generally, of course, there's going to be exceptions. Reasons which we give are for the general scenarios, and generally, you did something wrong, quickly get there before, so that the person can't catch you. Okay. Having said all of that, Rabbi Avraham now goes to tell us, like with all character traits, that not always is it good. Even being calm and even not getting angry, sometimes a person needs to show anger, needs to show displeasure, needs to show that something's been done wrong. וכיוון שביארנו כי אריכות הפעם היא מידות התרומיות אשר הן תורה, having explained now how important it is and how many mitzvot in the Torah and how many stories in the Tanakh about the importance of being slow and calm. נאמר כי אף שתכונה הכרחית היא בעניינים התלויים ברצונותינו ובשאיפותינו הגשמיות, אין הדבר כן בעניין הדת. When it comes to spiritual matters, and a person needs to know when to stand up for what's right, and to show upset, and to show displeasure. ולכן אמרו חז"ל, כל תלמיד חכם שאינו נוקם ונותר כנחש, אינו תלמיד חכם. A very difficult one. The Gemara says, anything Chacham doesn't take revenge like a snake is not a Talmid Chacham. Meaning, sometimes the Talmid Chacham needs to stand up, and when the Torah has been disparaged, when the Torah has been denigrated, they need to stand up for the Torah. The Gemara asks, how can it be? But the Torah says, don't take revenge. He says, yes, the Gemara answers, when it comes to personal matters, you're not allowed to take revenge. When it comes to spiritual matters, a person needs to know when to stand up. So he's saying, yes, being calm and not getting angry, very good. But sometimes you have to stand up and show very clearly that something is wrong. And you can't behave like this, and so on. We all strive to be like Moshe. He's our greatest leader. When we look in the Torah, we analyze Moshe's character, we find that sometimes he does get angry, but sometimes he doesn't. The difference is, he doesn't get angry when it's personal. He does get angry when it's not personal. And he's going to give us examples. ומחל להם בצער על שפל מדרגתם, והשתדל בעבורם, בעבור כל ישראל, באומרו למה הראות למה זה. When the first time when Moshe and Aaron came to the people, and he said that things are going to get better, and things only got worse. Tevin anytime, it wasn't even given straw. And the people came to him, the leaders came to him and said to him, Hashem should punish you for the fact that you raised our spirits in vain. Moshe didn't get angry. Even though, imagine that, imagine you're trying to help someone and he comes and the help didn't come immediately, and you say, Hashem should punish you. Moshe didn't get upset. Moshe went back to Hashem and said, Hashem, they're right, help them. So because it was personal, he was willing to forgo. בין אלה שטבע יהושע עונשם בעוון הפגיעה בכבודו של שליח השם עליו השלום, עניין שאין בתוכו מסכנו החינוכים. I'm not going to go into this now in detail. He says, אמר עליו השלום אמירה המלמדת על אריכות אפיו ועל עליצותו טובו המקנא אתה לי ומי ייתן את כל עם אדוני נביאים. One of the most beautiful pesukim. The story of in Parashat Barotecha, the story of the 70 people who were going to become elders and were going to have the spirits of Hashem, and it was a whole lottery, because there was 6 chosen from each tribe, but 6 times 12 is 72. So 2 had to be excluded, but the 2 who were excluded ended up also trying to get and to be part of the Sanhedrin, to be part of the Zekanim, 72. Eldad and Medad. And Yoshua sees this, and Yoshua comes running into Moshe, and he says to Moshe, look, Eldad and Medad mitnabbe'im b'machaneh. They were meant to be excluded, 70 only, and now it's 72. Going against what you said. And Moshe answers beautifully, he says, it's fine. Don't worry. I don't need you to get angry for me. If only everyone showed so much enthusiasm, showed so much zeal to be able to be part of the select group. So again, this was something personal. They went against what Moshe's plan was. Moshe was willing to forego. ומרים עליה שלום שהענישה אותה, השם מתעלה והביא עליה מה שהביא בעבור מה שדיברה על משה, אף על פי כן לא ביקש לרחמים במות פיו, שמר אל נא רפא לה. Miriam spoke derogatorily about her brother Moshe with Aharon. and she was punished, and she had leprosy, tzarat. And nonetheless, Moshe was still willing to go to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and say, El Narafana, please heal her. Words which we use ever since, every single time we ask for Refuah Shlema. So this was something personal against Moshe. He was willing to forego. But ועם כל זה מוצאים אנחנו אותו מקנא לכבודו יתעלה במעשה העגל. But when we see in other places, he does get angry. כתוב, ויהי כאשר קרב אל המחנה וירא את העגל ומחולות, וייחרף משה וישלך מידיו את הלוחות. When Moshe came down from the mountain and he saw the dancing and he saw the golden calf, he got angry, the pasuk says, and he threw the tablets. I thought Moshe could control himself. When people denigrate him, when Miriam speaks badly about him, when the leaders come to him and tell him off, Moshe is willing to keep quiet. But here he gets angry. Why? Because this is a spiritual matter. This is a matter of leadership. This is a matter of showing what's right and what's wrong. Here I need to show anger. This is last week's parasha read on Shabbat. The sons of Elazar and Tamar. Moshe got angry, even though later on they were proven right. But Moshe got angry because he felt they hadn't done part of the sacrificial service which they were meant to do. So Moshe got upset about that. Why? Because this is something spiritual. This is something which needs to be taken care of. So here Moshe does show his displeasure. When it came to Moshe got upset with the people who went out to war against Midian because they kept some of the children. They were meant to kill them all. They kept some of the girls. And Moshe got angry about this again. Why? Moshe in other places doesn't get angry. Here he's getting angry because you've gone against the word of HaShem. Then, when it comes to that, then you stand up. So he's trying to show you from Moshe how Moshe, despite the fact he was willing to forego so many times, but when it comes to spiritual matters we have influence over, person has a duty. And he's going to make this point. Only where you have an influence over. Right? I'm going to talk about that in a moment. וכן מצינו בפנחס וקנאתו על הדת וחמתו בעבורה. Also we find Pinchas being zealous. ככתוב, וירא פנחס ויקום מתוך העדה ויקח רומח בידו, ויבוא, והלא ידעת תוצאות הדבר לא ישראל שנאמר, פנחס בן אלעזר בן אהרון הכהן השיב את חמתי בן ישראל. Pinchas saw a terrible act of immorality occurring publicly, and Pinchas got up and killed them, even though he was an important person. Nonetheless, he was willing to kill them, and as a result, he was given a great reward of priesthood as a result of this. He did that. No, yeah, it may have been from a place of. It may have been that it looks like a lack of emotion, but this is important when there's something wrong happening. You have to take action. ושמואל עליו השלום בעניין עמלק, ויאמר שמואל כאשר שכל אנשים חרבך, וישסף שמואל את הגג לפני אדוני בגלגל. Right? When Shaul was meant to kill all of Amalek, and he didn't do so, Shmuel cursed him and said, just like your sword has killed people and made people's mothers upset that they lost their children, your mother will also, and Shmuel got angry with Shaul. For why? Because this is something which Hashem commanded, and here you have to show your anger, and you have to be upset, and you have to tell people off. ושאול אמר, ודעורו במה הייתה חטאת הזאת היום, כי חי אדוני משה את ישראל, כי אם ישנו ביונתן בני, כי מות ימות. וכשהוברר שהיה החטא ביונתן, אמר שאול, כה יעשה אלוהים וכה יוסיף, כי מות תמות יונתן. So this is a story when Shaul asked the Urim Betumim whether Shaul told everyone that they need to fast. He wasn't sure whether to go out to fight against the Pelishtim, against the Philistines or not. And he asked Urim Betumim, and he wasn't getting an answer. And he realized someone had done something wrong. And Shaul said, whoever it is who's eaten, who's done something wrong, he's going to die. Even if it's my son, Yonatan, he will be put to death. And when he found out that it was Yonatan who had eaten wrongly, and that's why the Urim Betumim was not giving him the answer whether to go to fight against the Pelishtim or not, so he decreed upon him that you need to die. This is your son, anger. Yes, this is the spiritual thing. This is something Hashem has said. We're going against Hashem. I need to show my anger. ודוד עליו השלום, עם כל גודל סבלנותו במה שנוגע לעצמו, שהזכרנו מהם מה שכזה, despite all we said about David HaMelech earlier on, that he was willing to forego things, ובעניינים הנוגעים אל השם יתעלה, היה מעשהו להרוג כדין את המעשה לעמוד שאול. But he got angry in places. כמו שנאמר, דמך על ראשך, כי פיך ענה בך לאמור, אנוכי מוטטתי את משיח אדוני. So this is right at the beginning of the second book of Shmuel. Shaul, at the end of Shmuel Aleph, Shaul, someone comes to tell someone comes to tell David HaMelech that Shaul was injured, he was going to die, and therefore to put him out of his misery, to put him out of his death, out of his suffering, he killed him. And David HaMelech said, "Okay, fine, great, but at the end of the day, you killed, you killed Shaul, so you have to be put to death." And David was willing to put him to death, even though he was willing to forgo many other things. ובנקבתו אומר אחיו ובענה שהרגו את איש-בושת, the son of Shaul, ואחיו ענה, they killed the son of Shaul. ויצב דוד את הנערים ויהרגום וקצרו את ידיהם ברגליהם. He commanded for their legs and hands to be cut off and to be killed. וכתוב מאות העולם כתובה מפרשת. And many times David HaMelech took revenge against various people. This was because it was under the instruction of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. ושלמה הרג את אחיו אדוניהו בן חגית להיותו מורד במלכות. Shlomo was even willing to kill his brother because he rebelled against the sovereign king. ואליהו שחט נביאי הבעל 450 בשעה אחת, וכה גדולה הייתה קנאתו להשם יתעלה, שנאמר, קנו קינאתי להשם אלוהי צבאות. Eliyahu, he killed the 450 false prophets, נביאי הבעל, and Hashem praised him for it. He did it in a very short time. ואל תפריכני על שהזכרתי את אליהו ואת אחר פנחס בטענת הדשות שאליהו פנחס חדם, שאם הוא כפי הטענה הזאת, תהיה זו ראיה נוספת, כנתו לתורה, ואם אחר הוא, אז כנה כל אחד מן שניים אלוהים. He says, don't ask me that some of the Midrashim say that Eliyahu and Pinchas are the same people. And I already gave you examples of Pinchas. Either way, if they are indeed the same person, so I've got another example of Pinchas / Eliyahu being zealous and getting angry. If they're different people, you got two examples. Either way, whether Eliyahu and Pinchas are the same person or not, and you see Rabbi Avram is not taking a clear stand on it, despite the fact that his father does seem to at least the simple understanding, the Rambam does seem to understand that Eliyahu and Pinchas are two different people. But Rabbi Avram says either way, it's not relevant. The point is you have more examples of people getting angry for the sake of Hashem. Ve'elisha ka'as biroto et Yehoram. Right, the King Yoram Elisha got angry because he was an idol worshipper. He spoke down to him. He said, "Go to your idols." I don't want to see you. Elisha got angry with kings. Why? Because they're going against the Hashem. Even in Hazal we find sometimes they talk about being angry and showing displeasure on occasions when it comes to spiritual matters. Shammai alav shalom hirba litkaes b'inyanei dat ad she'yatza miged arichot hapayim v'tzivu shel damot elav k'mo shamro. So Shammai was very strict. Chachamim say, don't be too strict. Shammai was a bit too strict, the Chachamim say. But you see still that Shammai was willing to be strict. He was a great Hacham because he felt he had to stand up. So you see that, sometimes it's appropriate to be strict and to show displeasure. Rav Kahana, כשהזהיר מוסר אחד שלא למסור ולא למנע, שקיל ספסריו במחיה ומית. Rav Kahana told someone who was going to go and tell the authorities about another Jewish person, and in those days, if you told the authority, it was a terrible thing, right? You could be killed. And he still went and told. Rav Kahana went and killed the informer. עד שמע לרב, כשנתיירא עליו מדיני הגויים, זיל בבבל כבדי אדמה. Right? You have to run away because the authorities are going to come after you. כבר אמרו, הצורבה מרבנן דרתח, אורייתהו דקמרתח עלי. שנאמר, הלא כה דברי כאש לאום אדוני. Sometimes when a hacham seems to be very emotional, very angry, that's coming from a place of Torah. Sometimes it's coming from a place of Torah. It needs to be genuine. המשנה מפורשת היא, הביעז כנמר וקל כנשר ותצבי יגבור כיעשו דברים של השמיים. Sometimes you need to be bold like a leopard and strong like a lion to do the will of Hashem. Sometimes you have to stand up. So from all of this, from the stories he's told us and from the Hachamim, we see the idea that sometimes a person needs to show anger. But very important, he's going to clarify in the next paragraph that although I've told you that sometimes you need to get angry, all that means is to show anger, but you're still in full control of your emotions. Rambam talks about this in various places in the Moreh and also in Mishneh Torah as well, that when you need to show anger, when you need to get angry, you show anger, but you're still in full control. And Rabbi Avraham makes this point in the next paragraph. He says, one point he says firstly is, מישהו רחוק מלכפות חובות התורה על זולתו מהיותו בלתי מוכשר לכך מאשר אינן מוטלות עליו כי אם מסודרות על ידי אחרים והוא עסוק בענייניו, אסור לו לצאת מגדר סבלנות בשום פנים ואופן. This is very important. Firstly, he says, sometimes, for whatever reason, you're not the right person to tell off other people. Either you don't know how to do it properly, or it's not your responsibility, or you're too busy to be able to do so. Whatever the reason may be, sometimes you see people getting, telling off other people. It's nothing to do with you, right? The Hatam Sofer said, Pasuk says, you have to rebuke. Some people think if I see someone doing something wrong, another Jewish person doing something wrong, I have to go and tell them off. The person doesn't know you. First, amitecha. First has to be your friend. And amit is someone in Torah is a friend, is a close connection. You can't tell someone off unless they're your friend, unless you got a relationship with them. You can't try to influence others. You have a relationship. First, you have to create the relationship. Only then can you influence. And so, says Rabbi Avraham, such people, they shouldn't be telling other people off. They shouldn't be getting angry. They shouldn't be showing displeasure because it's not appropriate. You're not the right person. You don't know how to do it properly. It's not your responsibility. You don't have the relationship to be able to do so. Whatever the reason may be, in such cases, then it's wrong to tell someone off, and therefore it's wrong to get angry, and one stays calm. But people who do have the ability to take responsibility and to tell other people off, like the prophets in those days, any leader in our days, when it comes to material matters, personal matters, it should be very calm. When it comes to spiritual matters, it should be very strict. Right? He should do things in which Hashem can testify, who knows our innards, that I'm only getting angry and showing my anger because I'm doing it for a spiritual matter. The person who gets angry at everything, it's not genuine. The person who doesn't get angry at anything, upset at everything, also not good. When he doesn't get angry about personal matters, but does stand up for spiritual matters, that's true anger. Learn from what it says about Kadosh Baruch Hu. You need to go in Hashem's ways, to imitate God. Some of Hashem's ways are being calm and forgiving. Other attributes of Hashem are getting angry and exacting retribution. And from this you learn sometimes you need to stand up. לכן אפילו בענייני הדת לא ימהר לנקום להעניש אלא לאחר בירור אורך רוח וחקירה ודרישה והעברת חיוב העונש. Since you see that there are more times it talks about Hashem's calmness and Hashem's slow to anger than it does about Hashem exacting retribution, from this you learn that even when it comes to religious matters, it shouldn't be that you're getting upset more than you're not. Because then that shows something wrong. You have to make sure that one is fully certain this is appropriate, and one has to investigate. כמו שנאמר, אמר השם יתעלה, בעוון הגדול והחמור ביותר, ועוון עבודה זרה, even with the great sin of עבודה זרה, והוגד לך ושמעת ודרשת היטב, והנה נכון הדבר נעשית עבודה בישראל. You have to investigate very, very well. You can't exact retribution and punish other people until you're certain. You can't jump to conclusions. ולא נאמר, והוצאת תשעו אות איש ההיא. וכן נאמר, בעיר הנידחת, כי תשמע, ודרשת וחקרת ושאלת היטב, והנה נכון הדבר נעשית עבודה בישראל, ואחר כך חכה תכה. Even an entire city who serve Avodah Zarah, a majority of a city which serve Avodah Zarah, still you have to investigate very, very well. Right? So what he's saying in this paragraph is the idea, firstly, is that if you don't have the ability to tell other people off and to stand up for spiritual matters, stay out of it. Secondly, even if you do have the ability to do so, it needs to be that more often than not, you're not getting upset and you're calm more often than not. Because even HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we walk in Hashem's ways. Even HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Torah talks more about Hashem's slow to anger than it does about Hashem exacting retribution. So from this we see that, on balance, one only shows anger and shows displeasure only when it's 100% certain it's the right thing to do. ומי שהוא רחב דעת וירא שמיים, והכשרתו בדרכי השם חזקת, כדי כך שהוא שר הגס מקרבו, ועם כל זאת אינו מתרשל בחובות אליו ויתעלה ואינו נוהג בהם כולה, כשהוא אכפן, חזק לפני הדין ותועלת קיום התורה ולא מתוך רתחה, כמו שבא מארי זמן הדרכים. So he says here, even when you're getting angry, you're not getting angry. Even when you show anger, you're not getting angry, but you're just showing anger, like my father talked about in the Moreh. I'm not going to go into now because we don't have time, but he talks about this here, that the idea to show anger. If a person is able to live like this, where he only gets angry when there are spiritual matters at stake and not personal matters, zoi ma'ala niskava v'derech nochecha b'derkei Hashem. This is a very high level. כי הוא יתעלה נשגב מעל כל כעס והתרגשות ואינו מגלה לנו את כעסו, אלא דרך השאלה. Then you're really walking in the ways of Hashem. Because Hashem never gets angry. It says various times in the Torah, Hashem got angry. That's just a borrowed expression. When it says Hashem gets angry, all that means is Hashem's punishing. The Torah is just using it as an expression to speak in the ways of humans. Even though the Torah, various places says, they angered me. He says very clearly, you don't get me angry. The Radak, Rabbi David Kimchi says on this pasuk, they think they're making me angry by serving Avodah Zarah. It's wrong. They're not getting angry, they're angering themselves, i.e. they're punishing themselves. When it says very clear in the pasuk, they never anger me, because Hashem of course is above feelings. You can't any mature understanding of God doesn't allow for God to be able to get angry, because Hashem is above feelings. So what does it mean Hashem gets angry? Whenever it says in the Tanakh Hashem gets angry, what that means is Hashem is about to demonstrate retribution and punishment. It's only being used as an expression, I'm going to punish them. I'm going to get angry, and the next pasuk continues, and therefore they're going to be punished. Whenever it talks about anger in the Torah with Hashem, that means I'm going to punish. My father explained this at length in the Moreh and in Mishneh Torah. When it says in the Torah, when Moshe kept on arguing with Hashem not to be the leader, not to go to Egypt and take the people out, it says Hashem got angry, and he said, "Don't worry, you need to take them out." Chamim tried to find what is it, where do we have the effect of this anger? Because we have a principle: whenever it says Hashem got angry, there must be punishment. What was the punishment? Moshe became more difficult to express himself properly. It became more difficult to speak. Okay, it was taken away at Har Sinai, at the Torah, but yeah. But you see. Okay, in the last paragraph, right? We see this clearly in the Torah, where it says after the sin of the golden calf, Hashem says to Moshe, Hashem says to Moshe, please allow me to get angry and to kill them. What he means is allow me to exact retribution, to punish them. When you're angry, you don't tell someone, allow me to get angry. You're angry, you get angry. If you're angry, you got those feelings, you get angry. I don't ask you, can I have permission now to get angry? And Hashem's telling Moshe, please allow me to get angry and to punish them. If you could even think, which is completely wrong, that Hashem can get angry, it doesn't help to ask someone, please allow me to get angry. You clearly see, it's exactly the same when it says, allow me to get angry and to punish them, to allow me to punish them. And the clearest proof of this is Ma'amarak Moshe alav Hashem b'Mishneh Torah. Later on, when this story is repeated in Devarim, in Ekev, it says, Hashem, Moshe is repeating the words of Hashem. He repeats the words, he says, Hashem told me, allow me to punish them. Doesn't V'sham lo nizkar honaf. And it doesn't say there, Moshe said Hashem got angry. Because it's not the point. The point is that Hashem wanted to punish you. This brings us to the end of this chapter on calmness. So to summarize, what we have learned in this chapter on calmness, then we'll take questions. What we've seen is calm doesn't, putting together both last week and last time and this time, calmness does not mean being apathetic. Sometimes one needs to have feelings. And one trains for being calm through two fashions. Firstly, through meditating on stories in Torah, which show us both positive examples and negative examples of anger. And secondly, meditating on the mitzvot of the Torah, city of refuge, not cursing people, which are designed to slow us down and slow our emotions down. But when it comes to spiritual matters, and one has the ability to influence, one wants to show, not actually be angry, but wants to show anger and displeasure, as we see in the prophets, as we see in the Hachamim. But when you're in doubt, better not to. When you're in doubt whether to punish or to not, to get angry or to not, better to refrain. Because a person needs to be more slow to anger than getting angry, even when it's for the right things. And of course, finally, there is no anger by Kadosh Baruch Hu. Right? And any place where it says that Hashem is angry, all that means is Hashem is about to exact retribution. And the Torah uses expressions. So same with us as well. Whenever the Torah talks about anger, whenever we are to get angry, it's to exact retribution, to do the right thing and to demonstrate standing up and leadership for the right thing. Okay, so that brings us to the end of chapter 6. The next chapter is much longer, chapter 7 on humility. Okay, so that will take us probably 3 classes, maybe even more, probably 3 classes actually, 3 or 4, and that's all about humility. So B'ezras Hashem, that we will continue next week, 6 to 7. We'll begin humility. No shiur on the Moreh next week. We start the Moreh this week. We start the Moreh next week, and we recommence Chot Shabbat on Thursday, 6 to 7. Okay, let's take questions now. Yes, Will, you had a question?
Yeah. So can you give an example of